morning, everybody, and welcome to Cabinet on the 26th of January. I'm your chairman, Mark Stevenson, and I'll be taking us through the agenda. So, the item number one is apologies for absence, please.
Thank you, Leader. I can report apologies for absence this morning from Councillor Ivan Henderson, who's the portfolio holder for Economic Growth, Regeneration and Tourism. I can also report apologies from Councillor Jeff Bray, the leader of the Tendring Residents Alliance Group, and from his deputy, who is unable to attend in his stead this morning. Apologies also from Councillor Carlo Guglielmi, the leader of the Conservative Group, and his deputy, Councillor Paul Honeywood, is attending this morning. And also apologies from Councillor Gary Scott, the leader of the Liberal Democrats Group, who has a function this morning in his capacity as chairman of the council. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much. Okay. Item number two is minutes of the meeting held on Friday, the 15th of December. I think we all had a good read of them. Any comments before I sign them off as a true copy? So I'm going to move them. Can I have someone to second? Thank you, Mick.
I'll second those, thank you.
I'll sign them in a minute. Number three is declarations of interest. Anybody got any declarations of interest they'd like to make concerning the agenda? Okay. Lovely. In that case, on to number four, announcements by the leader of the council. I have a few. Where shall I start? It's been a busy month since December. We had scrutiny, as the chairman of one of the scrutiny committees is here will know it's been quite busy. Two scrutiny committees and the budgeting setting process has taken up a lot of time. We've also had the government officials down to do the levelling up partnership work, and they'll be here with us for the next 3 months. And their first meeting was with the chief exec and I and a few other officers last week, and they were very pleased with what they saw and it was well received. So I'm looking forward to that, and they should be around for the next 3 months. And then lastly is, and I won't touch on it too much because we're going to cover it later in the agenda, is we have the announcement from Gove yesterday giving us a whole load of more money, which doesn't actually look like it's going to be a whole load more money for us as a district council. So that was interesting. One thing I did want to show is this was the postcard. Yeah, where's the camera over there? That I gave to Rishi Sunak when he came down, and in it we asked for him to not make the long-term plan for towns to be all about capital, but to include some revenue. And I'm glad he listened to me. I must have some sway. So, yeah, just wanted to catch up on that. So that's my announcements. Quick rattle through, and I'm going to go on to cabinet members. Gina.
Yeah, I've got 3 items actually. Firstly, the good news. We can finally share the fact that the Ofsted report on Career Track was good. I've been busting to actually tell people this, but we had to wait for the official publication. And it reflects the hard work that Debbie Ann and Carol and her team have put in, particularly over the last year. And also, we mustn't forget the dedication of the apprentices on the scheme. And I think I hope, I'm sure I do, speak for everyone when I say a very big thank you and congratulations to everyone concerned. Next one, I'm not sure if any of you saw the Look East News on Wednesday evening. We hosted a very successful STEAM event in the Princess Theatre, where several of our schools brought their Year 6 pupils to meet prospective employers. You might think it's a bit early in the day, but we want to sow the seed very early to change the aspirations of our young people. It was the first event of its kind and was supported by the NHS, Essex County Council, the University of Essex, and of course ourselves, Tendring District Council. The atmosphere was amazing, and it's something that we hope we can continue through our work on the skills agenda. And finally, I was very privileged to attend a meeting of the many teams, I'm sorry I'm reading this, I don't want to forget anything, that run our successful wellbeing hubs. The meeting was at Great Bentley School. The work they are doing is amazing, and going into their 3rd year, they have worked with 526 children and their families, and at least 80% of these children have not had to be referred to other statutory services. Some harrowing stories were told, but there was so much positive energy in the room. And it would be remiss of me if I did not acknowledge that this work was started under my predecessor, Councillor McWilliams, and I'm happy that they have been able to increase the number of hubs now to 33 schools. That's my news.
Thank you, Councillor Placey. I think I just want to come in on the back of that. So what a great news it is to have the Ofsted report good. I think it touches on one of our key points or priorities that we put in our corporate plan about improving skills and opportunities to our young people. And I think it helps with our social demographics. I also attended the STEAM event, which was quite interesting. We had actually Tendering's own horticultural team there showing off some of their things. I think, but the most interesting thing, especially for the children, was the police stand, which had a few armed members there and interesting guns, and boys will be boys, and so guns were there to be shown around by the police, and it was very well received by it. It was so exciting, and such a long day for the staff as well, so they should be applauded for all the work they did. Right, so that concludes Cabinet items. So I'm going to move us on now to item number 6, which is matters referred to the Cabinet by the Council. And I'm being told there are none this time. So item number 7 is matters referred to Cabinet by a committee, and this references the Resources and Services Over Scrutiny Committee. Welcome, Paul. And a scrutiny of the initial budget proposals, and this is pages 13 and 14. First of all, can I just say thank you for all the work that the committee did. I haven't been a scrutiny chairman. I know that it's quite hard to put all of that together in such a short space of time, especially on the chairman, so thank you for all you did there. I think I've seen your recommendations, and I'm happy to move those recommendations on block as such, with the view that our comments are on page 14. So hopefully you've seen them. I do need a seconder before I carry on.
I'm happy to second the report, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Cox. I think as a former chairman, I can be a little bit sort of free with the comments, is that I found it was really good to see that the comments you made were general and they indicate that we were going in the right direction. You're right, some of those reviews are already in place and going forward. I think, you know, especially around the cost pressures, you mentioned about how we should be talking about listing them and seeing where the priorities are and all of that lot. A lot of this work will come through the scrutiny committee as per parcel, part of what we do, and I would hope we would see it fairly soon. So as part of the budget setting process, a lot of this work has been done to just get the budget sorted out, but that is cost pressures and the other bits and pieces that will come after that will come to the scrutiny committee fairly quickly. So I don't know if anybody's got any comments before I move that agenda item. No?
Can I just make one very?
You may.
Sorry, Chairman. I'll try not to. Don't start again. I'll try not to extend your meeting by too long. Just a very quick one is that I think that the issue around the savings and around the budget is going to be dynamic. And I say dynamic, I mean in the sense of things are going to change over the year because we're going to get cost pressures in, we could have a change of government, we have the looking at the savings and the pressures coming in, and obviously inflation, etc. So I think that there is not going to be a point in time in which that is going to be the figure. I think it will be dynamic. It is in every year, as we know, and going back over many years, but I think even more so this time because of the changes coming through. So I just sort of highlight that doesn't raise an expectation that there will be at one given point the elixir of life, the solution of everything. It will be a dynamic and ongoing, and I think it's going to be a very challenging year around the cost pressures and the savings.
I totally agree. As finance portfolio holder, we have literally weekly conversations with one officer, the chief exec, and myself, just to make sure that we have crossed every T, dotted every I. And it doesn't, you know, I was going to hint at it when we did the general fund. My comments I wrote 2 days ago for this meeting, and already they're out of date because of government movements. So I'll get to that, but yes, it is going to be a trying time for all councils. I feel that we are in a good position, and I will quite happily concede that that's not just because of what we're doing, but because of the previous administration's handling of the thing. But going forward, you know, as in my general fund comments, which I'll come to later, there is a difference between fully funded and a balanced budget, and I'll come to that when I do the general fund. So the recommendations moved and seconded. Can I have an agreement, please? Thank you very much. Right, so we're on to agenda item number 8, and this one I think is going to fall to you, Andy. Councillor Baker.
Thank you, Chairman. As you can see, there are a number of recommendations, some quite lengthy on pages 15, 16, and of the agenda from the Resources and Services Overview and Scrutiny Committee, and I thank them for these because they're very comprehensive. I'm not going to read all through them because there are many, as I just said. My responses to each one, with the help of Mr. Guyver, are shown on pages 17 and 18, and the recommendation is shown on page 18. And I'd just like to make the note that with regard to, if I can find it, bear with me please, the first recommendation, that has already started, which is the weekly or monthly list of planning enforcement cases. I think that came out I think it was yesterday, so that has already been implemented. So the recommendation, as I said, Chairman, is on page 18.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. And do you have a seconder? Councillor Bush. Thank you very much, Councillor Bush. So it's being moved. There are no other comments. Can I have an agreement on that then? Thank you very much. Number 9, Leader of the Council's items. There are no matters referred to the Cabinet by the Leader of the Council on this occasion. Number 10 is the report of the Economic Growth, Regeneration and Tourism Portfolio Holder, which is normally going to be Councillor Henderson, but unfortunately he has another duty he has to attend to, so I'll be taking this in his place. So this is the Clacton Air Show, sorry. The Clacton Air Show has always been, you know, next year, or this year now, it will be our 31st Clacton Air Show, and it has always been a thing that has been loved by the residents of the district, especially Clacton. And when we did our recent, can't think of the word now, consultation around the air show, it had an overwhelmingly love around it, and so that helped us make a decision to today put forward to fund the air show for the next 4 years. And the reason we're doing that is because it's about being able to make plans from a business point of view, from a council point of view. You know, sponsorship over 4 years could interest some of the bigger players. You know, being able to get procurement through for 4 years reduces costs and things like that. We're often criticising government for their financial statement coming out every year, 1 year at a time, and yet we do the same things with our air shows and things like this. So this gives businesses and the council the opportunity to find better ways to cut the costs by economic savings, and it also gives businesses the ability to plan for in the long term going forward. And I think the thing that we shouldn't underestimate is the social value of it. You know, it is the largest event in Essex that's free. You know, we have that accolade, and it's a fantastic one to have. People come from all around. You know, we've heard the stats: 250,000 people, X amount of millions of pounds. And I think, but it really does put us on the map. And one of the things that happens is it showcases Clacton, it showcases the pier and the town and the seafronts, and everybody's always talking about those things, but they won't see them if they don't come. So it's very, very important that, for me, that we continue. It does come at a cost pressure, and we do know that, but the social value and the economic value outweigh that cost pressure, in our opinion, or mine and Ivan's and the Cabinet's opinion. So it's proposed that we move the recommendation on page 34. I do need a seconder. That would be Councillor Barry. Thank you, Cal.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I'd like to second that and just add my support to what you've just said. The reports prepared on this item are very comprehensive. We've had both internal and external impact assessments and projections down the line for the next 4 years. As you say, this 4-year plan will bring some financial benefits across a number of areas, and I think built into the proposal is a annual review every year. I know the staff do a debrief every year, and it's very thorough. But to have a 4-year sort of strategy with built-in reviews, I think is reassuring to the council that it will be under proper financial scrutiny, but will also bring some long-term benefits to the area. And as you say, it's the biggest free event in Essex. It brings 12 million into the local economy. So I would like to formally second the adoption of those recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Barry. And you make a very good point about the reviewing it every year. And of course, it will be reviewed once it's done its 4 years. That doesn't mean that the air show is going to end, but at that point, there'll probably be a new administration, whoever that might be, and it will be for them to take the decision on where the air show goes from there. So those reviews will be timely and appropriate. And I'm hoping that next year we'll be able to sit there with some more positive news around savings, and we can actually claw back some of the costs of running this air show. So it's been moved and seconded. Councillor Baker, you wish to say something?
Chairman, just to say this is, I fully support the the recommendations of, as someone who has family that insist on coming to tendering just to view the air show, not to see Grandad, but just to see the air show because the red arrows fly. I personally would have a lot of explaining to do if we didn't run it. So I'm happy to see that we're going to have a 4-year plan and to explore all the opportunities to make sure that it stays, because if we lose it, and I've said this before, if we lose it, we're never going to get it back. So I fully support the recommendations. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Bush.
Yeah, thank you, Mark. Yeah, I just want to echo what's already been said. I think this is such a positive a recommendation, which I fully endorse and support. I mean, looking at it in a longer term, to have this plan, it gives us great opportunity to seek sponsorship on a wider scale, which obviously gives us another opportunity to perhaps mitigate some of the cost pressures that we've got going forward, and it showcases it in a wider sphere. So in so many aspects for all families and for time, this is like the highlight for tendering in the summer, and I just think it's such an exciting thing. Another thing that I wanted to sort of make a comment on, which is obviously very close to myself, is there's obviously the environmental impact, which often gets challenged, but we are speaking to the sponsors, suppliers, and all the services supporting and involved with this event to look at how we can mitigate some of the carbon emissions. And just to give them an example here, on the last paragraph on page 38, another positive contribution is that we've to offset our carbon by planting something in the region of 1,150 trees and 2 community orchards. So if we keep looking at some of those things to mitigate that, with so many positives that we're generating from this, I'm totally behind it. Looking forward to the show this year, which is on the 22nd and 23rd of August. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Bush. And okay, it's been moved and seconded very energetically. Can I get an agreement? Thank you very much. Okay, that moves us on to agenda item number 11, which falls to me. That's the report of the Corporate Finance and Governance Portfolio Holder, updated General Fund Financial Forecast Budget for 24-25. And as I referenced earlier, I wrote some notes on this, and I already feel that some of these are out of date, and it was only 2 days ago. I think that's the point that we're trying to make, is it's a live forecast, and we project where we think we are at certain points in the calendar. Nearly all meetings, and especially at scrutiny, when it's asked for, it's there and ready and available. So I'll just go through the notes, and I'll come to a seconder and any comments afterwards. So the forecast has been subject to further updates since Cabinet in December, which is set out in the report. Just before Christmas, we received the provisional local draft local government finance settlement, which included over £1 million of additional funding for us. A note of caution is that we cannot take this for granted, and it is unlikely that this will continue for any meaningful length of time. In following up from some previous commitments, the budget now also reflects a percentage increase in the LCTS grant paid to town and parish councils. The increase reflects our own revenue support grant increase. As we set out in the report in December, work remained ongoing in terms of potential future cost pressures. An additional 229,000 of cost pressures have been included in the budget following this review. This includes making money available to support the Clacton Air Show, which is hopefully everyone is pleased for us to continue. There are a few budget adjustments that remain outstanding that will be finished in readiness for a report to full council on the 13th of February. In terms of full council meeting in February, we'll be recommending a Band D council tax of amount of £193.73 in 24-25, a 2.99% increase. The 197.3 per annum is just over 50p a day, which I'm sure we will all agree continues to represent excellent value for money and for residents. As set out in the report, we face many more cost pressures, which I will be looking at with my portfolio holders and officers over the coming weeks, and separate decisions will be made as necessary. Some of you will have heard me say that we have delivered a balanced budget, but not a fully funded budget. This will be the case until we identify the necessary savings to enable us to move away from reliance on the forecast risk fund. In terms of saving, I know that members are keen to see what we are planning. As you know, we are committed to openness and transparency, and we will share our options and plans as soon as we can. The additional government funding in 24-25 has provided additional flexibility as it reduced the call on forecast risk funds in 24-25. But we acknowledge that we need to use the time and this flexibility wisely and make sure we get ahead of the saving targets as soon as we can. We can't shy away from the challenges ahead, and the support and input from all members will be important to deliver a financial, sustainable future for the council. Myself and the Chief Exec did provide a response to the provisional local government finance settlement. We asked the government, and this is the bit that's out of date, for extra cash and increased flexibilities, with the latter point also picking up on discussions we had at the recent RSOSC committee about lobbying government wherever we can, for example, when it comes to setting our fees and charges. We will also provide a copy of our response to local MPs. I note recent headlines in the press about a number of Conservative MPs demanding extra funding for the councils, which has now happened. Hopefully together we can extract some additional cash out of the government, but I somehow doubt we will get any more than we have already announced. So talking about the announcement that Gove made 2 days ago, a day ago, yeah, whilst it's good for local government in general, a lot of that money has gone to, so it's about 500 million, and it's gone to social aspects of the local government. The bit for us as district councils, not as the primary tier, but the secondary tier, whatever it's called, is that we only get across the country 50 million between us. Yeah, and when you break it down, it roughly looks like 1%, and for us, that possibly could be 20 grand. Yeah, so when you talk about, he's given lots of money, he has, and we welcome it, but has it affected our finances? I think it's just given us a little bit more room on the forecast risk fund, because that's probably where it'll end up until we can confirm and update those exact figures. They're my assumptions, not those of the council, but that's the way I've been reading it. Mr. Davidson. Sorry, before I do that, can I get a seconder?
I'm happy to second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Placey.
Thank you. You called me in before you must have felt my twitch in terms of that, before I even asked. Can I just give a couple of updates on that? And this is literally kind of, and your summation is correct, but the couple of updates even since last night and seen in the press is that there has been some discussion now about that the government will be having some of the additional funding, which for us will be not large compared to obviously it's adult social care, but will be potentially performance related. So there may well be additional requirements on us even to receive that funding. When you get that at times, one has to look at and actually if it is a small amount, what is the value of receiving that funding? It's like any actual funding we get from externally, we have to look at the value of receiving that, because if it's actually going to cost us more to administer that, then we have to say, well, what's the value of that? So there is that potential 1%, and I know the kind of 1% is the kind of the figure banded around at the moment, but there is potential, when we don't know the detail, potential for that to be performance related, which could mean that actually that's going to have either a cost implication to us, or it's going to mean that what's the value of actually receiving it. So I would sort of put that corollary on there, so rather than it just being extra money into the pot. And the other thing is that when we receive grant funding, there are a number of things in which it's a very complex formula, of which then there is things which are put in and said, well, you've had a grant for that, but it's obviously all in the RSG, the formula. So again, we can't unpick that, but that may have an additional cost implication as well. On the other point you made about the MPs, just to update members, we have briefed both of the tendering rated MPs, that's Sir Bernard Jenkin and Giles Watling, and they have both in terms of our position and also in terms of the submission which went via the District Council network, and they have both responded, and they have both been briefed. So just to say that we have completed that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Davison. Do I have any comments on this? Okay. In that case, it's been moved and seconded. Can I get a commitment, please? Thank you very much. You had me worried for a second there. Okay, moving on to agenda item number 12. I believe this one is yours, Councillor Baker.
It is indeed, Chairman, and as you can see from the report, I'm seeking Cabinet's approval to adopt 3 housing policies, these being a temporary accommodation policy, deposit guarantee policy and homelessness prevention policy. The recommendations are shown on page 94. These policies formalise some of the extensive work already been done by the Housing Solutions Service to assist those who are homeless or threatened with homelessness. As we have seen, homelessness is not only a local issue but a national one, with the cost of living crisis and unprecedented levels of high inflation having an impact on families and individuals, with the council seeing year-on-year increases in those presenting as homeless. Due to the current situation, it is felt that the position is unlikely to be reversed in the short term. Homelessness has had an impact on our budget in the form of significant cost pressures, and I'm hopeful that by adopting these 3 policies, they may help in reducing that. It will also ensure that the council has a clear framework in place in respect to activities associated with both the prevention and release from homelessness. And due to the increase in people presenting as homeless, there's been increasing pressure on the Housing Solutions team as they aim to provide support for our residents who are facing probably one of the most difficult and stressful periods in their lives. Homelessness has a major impact beyond just not having somewhere to live and call home, but on health, physical and mental and schooling achievements for our young people, to mention just a couple. Those of us fortunate to have never been in such a position cannot imagine what it must be like. And I must commend our officers who deal with this on a daily basis with both professionalism and empathy. Their attempts to source suitable temporary accommodation is now a lot more challenging, especially as the council's aim is to not place anyone outside the district unless it's absolutely necessary. The temporary accommodation policy sets out how temporary accommodation will be offered, the terms under which it is offered, and the nature that will be made available. As the Spendles House project is due to be brought back into use by, and I'm very hopeful, the beginning of April, this policy, I believe, is especially relevant. The deposit guarantee policy ensures that we have control over the provision of rent deposits for those persons who we assist into privately rented accommodation. The cost of providing rent deposits for 22-23, which is shown on page 96, was just under £160,000. Figures for 2023-24 to date are currently unavailable. I have asked officers to provide those up-to-date figures as soon as they can. But as you can see, these have grown significantly over recent years, and offering a deposit guarantee will not incur the same amount of expenditure, hopefully, and it will contribute to a more efficient homeless service and potential savings. The homelessness prevention policy sets clear information about the services and assistance available to prevent homelessness and to comply with the statutory requirements, legislation and good practice. Sets out how council will work with our partners to prevent homelessness. It will also improve the understanding of those who require our assistance as to what they can expect It also ensures that staff are provided with the relevant training in order that they are equipped to carry out the roles expected of them. And as is mentioned within the policies themselves, they will be reviewed annually or more frequently if circumstances dictate, and a delegation is provided for that within the recommendations. As I say, they're on page 94, and I so move them, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. Do you have a seconder? Councillor Placey.
Yeah, we all know that having somewhere permanent, healthy to live goes a long way to improving the quality of life. And as Councillor Baker has just said, helps to deliver better health outcomes. And it can include better access to employment, so win-win. As these policies seek to deliver on this, I am more than happy to second them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Placey. Any comments? Well, I'll just make one. I think this is a very timely piece of work. I think you touched on it when you mentioned Spendles, that we are soon to have our own facility for our homeless, and these policies will most definitely help with the temporary accommodation. And I think I'd also like to echo your sentiments around the excellent work that team does. And as members, we may see it occasionally when one of our residents presents as homeless to us, but those officers see it day in, day out, family, children, you know, that it must be extremely difficult. And so as Cabinet, I would like to echo your thoughts around how wonderful those staff are in dealing with those things. It's been moved, it's been seconded. Can I have an agreement, please? Thank you very much. Okay. That moves us on to number 13, and I believe this is yours, Councillor Barry.
Okay, thank you, Leader. I'd obviously like to congratulate our officers for preparing a clear and comprehensive policy on this issue, and I think it's a much needed policy, and it sort of maintains standards across the district. It ensures that all events are subject to the same scrutiny and requirements. It protects council assets, and it protects residents and communities. So it's given uniformity, consistency and fairness across all events, and this is from very small events on village greens to large events on greenswards, and there are sometimes some contentious issues arising from these events, and I think this policy will enable us to manage any contingencies across the board, and I commend it to the council.
To the Cabinet. Have you got a second? Councillor Cox.
Thank you, Leader, and I'm very happy to second this and fully endorse the comments that my colleague Cabinet Member Councillor Barry's just made. I think this is a very important policy. Not only does it protect the council, it also protects members of the public, and I think it's a good thing that people know what what's required of them before they actually put on an event. And I think this is a policy we've needed. It's been a long time coming. Now it's here. It's a very good policy, and also thank the officers for the work they've done in producing this very good policy. Thank you.
Okay. I'd also like to say it's a long time coming. We had some instances both in previous administration and this administration where this document would have been invaluable in sorting out certain problems we had. And so now we have a reference manual as such, a policy that we can go to when it comes to everything, and I'm very grateful for it. So it has been moved and seconded. Do I have an agreement on this one as well? Agreed. Thank you very much. So we're on to agenda item number 14, and this is the updated housing revenue accounts, business plan and budget proposals for 24-25, presented by myself and Councillor Baker, because it's the HRA. So I'm going to move it. Can I have a seconder?
Quite happy to move it, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Baker. I've got a couple of words that I wrote on this. basically, there's only been a couple of changes that have been made to the budget since our meeting in December, which are set out in the report. The proposed rent increase remains the same at 7.7, which helps us balance cost increases and other elements within the HRA. Similarly to the general fund position, there are a few budget adjustments that remain outstanding that will be finalised in readiness for reporting for full council on the 13th of February. Along with updated business plan figures, the report also sets out the detailed budget, the capital programme and reserves. Based on the latest position, it is proposed to contribute £300,000 to the HRA balances, which offsets the planned use of the same reserve in 23-24. I also understand that the tenants panel is meeting in early February, and I look forward to their comments, which will be made available to members ahead of the full council meeting on the 13th of February. So those are my comments. The housing revenue account, or basically a housing stock, is in good condition. It's being well managed, and I feel confident that going forward we should be in a place where we might be able to look at other things going forward. So I'm going to hand over to Councillor Baker, whose domain it is, and see if he's got any comments.
I welcome the report and I welcome your comments, Chairman. As you say, it's a good report, and I'm happy to second it. I don't think I have any further comments at this time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's been moved. It's been seconded. No other comments. Can I get an agreement? Okay. Thank you very much. And the last agenda item is management team items. There are no management team items. So, date of the next scheduled meeting is the 16th of February. So I hereby close the meeting. Thank you all.